Welcome to the RotoWire Prospect Podcast. I'm your host, James Anderson, and I've got a great guest today. I've got JT. You might know him on Twitter as Dukes Was My Guy. You might also know him for doing the O's and Ones on Twitter, searching for deep league prospects that are breaking out. JT is a first-time guest. Very happy to have you on the show, man. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Thanks for having me. I'm impressed you called it the O's and Ones. A lot of people call it zeros and ones, but yeah, it's pronounced O's and Ones. So it's a nice job there.
Yes, I'm off to a great start here. I want to just kind of get your background first, JT, before we start talking about some breakout prospects. We're going to talk about Joshua Baez of the Cardinals, who's kind of becoming my favorite prospect crush heading into the offseason. But I want to get your background first and just sort of, how many dynasty leagues do you play in? How deep are they? How did you kind of go down this path of becoming someone whose hobby it is to uncover deep league prospects?
Sure. Well, I'm in 4 30-teamers and 120-teamers. So 5 dynasty leagues total. I only play dynasty. I only like the big leagues. I think the smallest league has 900 specs and the largest is now up to 1,200. So, the big deep specs, you house a bunch of them. Every team has a bunch of them. So that's my jam. I like it. If I can build a 30-teamer, it looks like it could compete for a World Series, and I know I have something going. So, yeah. I started in this mainly because for me, I'm always competing. So I never have those high picks. I'm never going out there and I'm looking for the Condons, the Paul Skeens. I never have an opportunity to get them because I'm constantly feeding the machine. I'm constantly trading first-round picks. I can't remember the last time I took a pick in a first round of baseball draft. I literally can't remember. I trade them all, first round, second round. I'm digging for the deep stuff, and sometimes that works. You can get I got a Lazaro Montez one year in the 4th round. Sometimes it works out. So the idea is, for me, is that a lot of the lists are geared toward top 100s. Well, the top 100 guys are guys that usually I never have a chance to get in the draft. So I gotta go deeper. I gotta find the guys that could be the next top 100 that are still off the radar. They're for free. Most of the guys in my minor slots right now are guys I've picked up, off the waiver wires. You're talking like Alfonso Rosario was one. There's lots of guys, and lots of guys can contribute. That Hunter Goodman a few years ago was one of those guys. Miguel Garcia a few years ago was one of those guys. So you got to stay ahead of the game, and then you just got to pay attention, and you got to get into the small sample sizes and go from there. How I got into this is from Par's List. So Rick in Par's List, he's now retired from this. He's living a happy life, doing other things, but for a few years he had the formula as Par's List. So going back to that the top 100s really didn't do much for me, and I was on my own just looking through stats and trying to find guys. I kind of gravitated toward formula rankings because there's no bias with the formula rankings. It's just stats. So if they're producing, they're there. They don't care where you were ranked or where you're drafted. And then Rick had a Discord. I went in the Discord. Actually, never been in Discord before. I'd download the app to get in there, and I got in there with him. And then I would randomly post names like a Christian Scott, stuff like that. And he just messaged me. He's like, "Hey, you're firing off some unknown bangers. Did you ever think about maybe writing something I'd never thought of before? I'd never knew it would end up being a passion, because now it's a passion. So now the O's and Ones is just finished its 3rd season. It's 34 O's and Ones deep. Plus I've done a few spin-offs and wrote some other articles, but it all comes back to Rick just reaching out and was like, "Hey, would you like to try doing this?" And then here I am.
So who are a couple examples, just to give people an idea? And I know you listed a couple of them in passing, but just the classic sort of O's and Ones type of prospects that you've found over the past handful of years that have gone on to be notable big league contributors.
I think the biggest right now that would help pretty much any size team would be Wilyer Abreu, Drake Baldwin, Agustin Ramirez, and then another one who got sidelined by injury would be Christian Scott. But out of this year, Agustin, Drake Baldwin, and Wilyer Abreu were the three biggest guys, I think.
Yeah, those are definitely three big ones. And, the two catchers, especially, just kind of really moving the needle relative to, just being able to pick a guy up for free and having them turn into a borderline top 5 player at their position. Just a big time windfall if you're able to add those guys off the waiver wire. What do you remember? Can we go back to sort of, one of these guys and sort of look back to what you were seeing at the time when you first wrote them up?
Yeah. Well, Drake Baldwin, I wrote him up on the second ever I did. He was 1% owned at the time. And so he started out really, really cold. I'm just kind of going to go off what I wrote back then because this was, over 2 years ago. But I put in April, he had one of the worst starts out there. He hit 184. He had a 355 on base percentage with a 286 slug. He had a 641 OPS. And then April 30th, I put he had a heart-to-heart with himself, and he just got hot. He hit 258, 375 on base, 591 slug with a 966 OPS. He had a 59% extra base hits. So, if you're hitting 60% of your hits are extra base hits, you're doing something right, And he also had almost a 1 walk to K ratio. So it was a 3rd-round pick, so he had a little bit of faith from the team because he was a 3rd-round pick. You're not talking about like an 11th-round pick, 7th-round pick, undrafted guy. He was a 3rd-round pick that was finally showing his potential, and everyone was sleeping on him. So small sample size, but it turned out, literally from that date when I wrote that, where I said he started getting hot April 30th, you can go from that date to the end of his minor league career, and he was a rake.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call him now, D-Rake Baldwin. If whenever he plays every day, it's going to be really nice to see. He has real potential.
Well, yeah, I think he's probably going to get treated in redraft leagues, like I said, like a borderline top 5 player at the position. I think coming off of this monster season, and is it like? I don't even know if I am willing to project notable gains off of this. Like he slashes 274, 341, 469 does Drake Baldwin in 124 games. So I think the dream is kind of pushing that plate appearance number up over 500 and sort of seeing where the numbers are at that point. But I feel like this was a prime year that we just witnessed from him. Like, is there another level to this?
There could be. Yeah, I think everyone gets a little bit settled in, start to get more comfortable, as they age. You say he played 124 games? How many of those did he just come in to pinch hit?
Right.
And if you look through his stats and then you filter down how many he started, he had multiple like 18, 19.
Yeah, he started 97
on base streaks. Yeah. So I think there's something more there. He could. How many home runs did he end up hitting?
He hit 19.
Yeah, 25 seems like it would be. He could get that in his sleep if he kept doing what he's doing with more starts. 25 homers seems like it would be really attainable.
But yeah, just kind of dialing up the playing time, basically.
Yeah.
And then, Agustin Ramirez, sort of along the same lines. Like I said, this guy, like before the season, I thought he was a decent bet to lead catchers and steals this year. Certainly think he did that. Actually, haven't confirmed that, but 16 steals should have led all catchers. 21 homers. He had the 585 plate appearances, but of course wasn't up right away. So like he could even get more than 585, but probably not a wise projection just given that he was mostly healthy. But another guy where, when I first started doing this, I think rookie catchers, like you just never expected any type of fantasy production from a rookie catcher. And both these guys have these monster years. Like, are you kind of envisioning Ramirez's bat maybe getting a little bit better as he starts to kind of settle in as as more of a DH with the arrival of Joe Mack?
Yeah, Agustin, everyone knew Agustin, the first 2 weeks? It was like, oh my God, who's this guy? He's hitting missiles, And then he had a lull. And then he had to adjust. And then he started to adjust and he started to hit again. I think 100% with more experience that he can improve upon those numbers, especially the K rate. That type of power, not everyone possesses that. I mean, he's got grade A top tier power. And the fact that he can steal so many bases, and he's not a burner. He's not a burner at all.
Right.
But some guys just have a knack. Kyle Tucker has a knack. Josh Naylor stole 30 somehow this year. So some guys just have a knack for stealing bases. Agustin, he's not going to stick at catcher. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Yeah, I mean, he literally defensively is like maybe the worst in the majors. He's not going to stick back there. But depending on your league, if he can sit back there 5 to 10 games and get catcher eligibility, you're going to have literally first baseman bat in your catcher spot. So, it's a cheat code.
Yeah, and he had so he got 73 games at catcher this year. I would just be hoping, I'd just be very hopeful that he gets enough in 2026 to retain that eligibility, so you can get it at least for 2026 and 2027. Having that catcher eligibility in 2028, I think, is probably unlikely with Ramirez. But like you said, at that point, maybe he's just kind of peak of his powers as a hitter, and you're happy to just deploy him in your first base or your util spot. What about Wilyer Abreu? Obviously, a monster hit. Do you play mostly in daily leagues where he has even more value, where you're not as punished for him sitting against some lefties?
Yeah, daily. I want the most control I can get. Weekly, I tried a weekly. I just couldn't do it. It's terrible. I need to be in daily. I need to be able to move guys in and out, relief pitchers, platoon bats, all that stuff. Yeah, Wilyer's been impressive. And Wilyer's a guy I hit on the O's and Ones. I put a section called the 40-man SOS, and it came out on volume 6 in the first year. And it was like, if you've got a spot, at least for me in my big leagues, I keep a spot or two in my minors for guys I think potentially get called up that year. Maybe they could help me out. I get an injury, playoff push. Who knows? It could happen. It does happen. So Wilyer Abreu is a guy I was like, look, he's still 2% owned. He's in AAA. He's hitting. He wasn't stealing bases, but he hurt his hamstring in the spring, and then he hurt his hamstring again in May. So a lot of people thought, well, he stole 30 bases in AA, and he stole 3 or 4 in AAA. Well, he's not really an athlete. Well, he's an athlete. He's just had a hurt hammy. What do you want from the guy? Give him a minute. So he's been hitting. He's always had a high walk rate in the minor leagues. He struck out, but he had great power, and then he had a cannon of an arm. So you get him, and he's a full-time lefty. So if you're going to have a platoon bat, have a lefty. Don't worry about the righties. If you're going to carry platoon guys, make sure he's a lefty. And Wilyer's a lefty. So Wilyer was a guy I'd had in one league since he was the Astros in AA, and it just carried over. And then I ended up trading for Tanner Bybee, who I turned for Christopher Sanchez. So Wilyer Abreu for free turned into a Christopher Sanchez. That's always good business. And that's the whole point of the O's and Ones. Their currency. Get them for free, right. Wait for the value to go up, keep them or move them, but keep the machine going. But Wilyer Abreu, I honestly think if he wouldn't have got hurt, he might have been the first All-Star for the O's and Ones this year, because he was really on a heater the first half of the year.
He was.
Yeah.
And I'm with you on the dynasty leagues. I love the daily formats where you can just really just get the maximum value out of each player on your roster. Wilyer Abreu, just a really, really good real life baseball player for the Red Sox. And what are you envisioning for 2026 from him?
From Wilyer? Well, I don't know. Is he going to play every day? He needs to play every day. I'd like to see him get more than 450 at bat. But the Red Sox, no one really knows what they're going to do, right? Are they going to move guys? Are they not going to move guys? Are they going to go all in on a big guy? I mean, Wilyer, if he played every day, even this year, if he wouldn't have got hurt, I mean, 27, 28 home runs, I think was really attainable. It's not a stretch of the imagination to think he was going to do that because he got on some pretty big heaters. You know, he's streaky, but he doesn't fall off a cliff when he slows down. You know, he just stopped hitting home runs for a minute, and then he hits 2 in a game, and then two the next night. You know, so I think 25 plus homers is not like any stretch of the imagination. I think Wilyer Abreu can be a nice, solid outfield bat for your team, no matter the size. You can run Wilyer Abreu out there no matter what league you're in.
Now, on the pitching side of things, I know you put in the notes, you put Braxton Ashcraft as one of the pitchers. I actually just took Braxton Ashcraft in the 26th round of a draft and hold league, a 15-team draft and hold league. Really, really strong finish to the year. Still probably some questions about just how much of a workload he can handle if he's pitching every 5th day for the big club. But just a fantastic and kind of under the radar second half of the season for Braxton Ashcraft.
Yeah, some of those guys get promoted, they go in the bullpen, and then they slowly bring him in the rotation. I think Brandon Ashcraft was slept on just because Paul Skeens came up, and then Bubba Chandler had all the hype. And it's hard for anyone to tell me that Bubba Chandler was that much better than Braxton Ashcraft as a minor leaguer. I don't see it. I think Braxton Ashcraft has the top of the rotation potential, at least an SP3 at worst. If everything clicks right, I think he can be much higher than that. I don't know if he's going to be your number one, but he can be one of those guys you run out there. Like if you're in a 5-game series, he can be one of those 3 guys you run out there. I have all kinds of high hopes for Brandon Ashcraft. He does a good job missing bats. He's got good velocity. He doesn't walk too many people. He keeps it on the ground, which is a huge thing in my opinion, is to be able to keep the ground ball percentage high. Limits damage. Get as many ground balls as you can.
Yeah. I think I just wanted to pull up his stats. So from basically July 29, he's pitching 3 innings. He's basically pitching 3+ innings every appearance from July 29th on, but he's not. I think he only goes 5 innings a couple times there. But in 12 games to close the year, Ashcraft has a 2.89 ERA, a 1.17 WHIP, and 49 strikeouts in 43 2/3 innings. So I think, this is a guy that to me, I don't think the market has really reacted to how strong he showed in the big leagues. So I feel like he might still be undervalued. Is this a guy where you would, if you have him, you're holding this year, you're not cashing out just quite yet?
Yeah, if I'd gone this long, like usually I try to move guys before they debut. A lot of the times the debuts coming, it's like peak helium unless they hit the show and then they blow out and then you missed it, But if you're still holding Braxton Ashcraft from when you got him for free until now, you have to keep rolling with him because you're playing with house money. Unless someone blows you away with an established guy, you got to run Ashcraft back out there.
Yeah, I do think. I mean, and I'm with you on that. I do think there will be more sort of hype on him as the offseason sort of builds. I think like the projection systems are going to come out and they're going to like him quite a bit, and people are going to dig in a bit more on just how impressive he was. But this is the type of guy where in redraft leagues, like I know you don't play in redraft, but like he's going to be going sort of as one of your last pitchers in your starting lineup, or maybe even a bench pitcher in some deeper formats, and he could return that sort of SP3 caliber production on a per start basis. So I think Ashcraft's a great name to bring up here early in the offseason. Another pitcher to bring up who might be kind of out of sight, out of mind, Christian Scott of the Mets, who will be coming back from his Tommy John surgery. People, there was a lot of hype for Scott initially, right when he first got the call, but I think people maybe forget just how dominant of a minor league starting pitcher Christian Scott was.
Yeah, I'm just talking about fantasy here, is I actually went and targeted Scott in some leagues as like a throw-in in some trades I made. So I traded Scott leading up to it in most of my leagues, and then I traded for him back at a lesser value. So I just stash him in the IL, and I wait till next year. Yeah, Christian Scott, in my opinion, I wrote an article called The 121 Gigawatt. Great Scott was about Christian Scott. And I look back as far as the stats went at the time on Fangraphs, and I got that he had arguably the best season since Madison Bumgarner in 2008. Like with with his strikeout rate, his swing and strike rate, his amount of almost no walks. You're talking about, let me see, I got it right here. He had a 17% swing and strike. He had a 3.6 walk rate, a 32% K rate, and he had a 44% ground ball rate. Like, you mix all that together, it's almost like a reliever stuff, but he was coming, he's pitching every 5 days. And he pounded out through 3 levels. Like Christian Scott was on a mission. And Christian Scott, I think the Mets as a group are doing fantastic work with their arms. They're really doing amazing things with their arms. But Christian Scott is a guy that I envision could be an SP1, SP2. Like he's one of the specs I had that I wouldn't move unless someone really overpaid for him. I was convinced he's going to be a guy, and I still am. He just hasn't been able to show it yet. TJ's a tricky thing. It takes a long time to come back. But Christian Scott is going to help that rotation out for the Mets a lot.
Yeah, tough to say exactly, what their plan is for sort of when he enters the rotation in 2026. They do just have a ton of arms that are kind of ready and all kind of spectrums of the aging curve. But I love that idea of before this season ended, trying to acquire Scott while the value was still low. Should we talk about Joshua Baez? I think.
Yeah, let's do it. He's a hot name, at least between us two.
Right. I mean, I do my top 400 prospect rankings updates 6 times a year. Do one at the beginning of October every year, just to kind of clear out all the guys who've graduated and to kind of catch up on some strong finishes. And it sort of clicked to me on that update. I think I had Baez maybe in like the 60s or something. It just kind of clicked to me on this last update. This is a top tier prospect, especially just for factoring in the proximity. There just aren't that many hitters to me that I think are going to be up in 2026 and have the same type of impact potential as Baez. Was obviously a high upside prep hitter when the Cardinals took him, I think 4 years ago now at this point. And he had some serious struggles. I know he's talked about just kind of getting to sort of a dark place amid those struggles, but something, clicked with him. And he just had a monster season. Like any type of 2025 query you want to do where you're looking for power and speed and a low strikeout rate, it's going to be like Connor Griffin, Florentino and Joshua Baez. Like he's in that sort of top tier class from just how he performed in 2025. What did you see from him in terms of what kind of got things clicking, and how do you see him kind of carrying through off of all this momentum he built this year?
Well, I mean, everything started clicking for him, it looks like, when they put him on the developmental list and he had the swing change. And then ever since he came back off that, he's raked. When he first came back off the end of last year, they had him an A, but there was like notable improvement. And then it just carried over this year. And from the All-Star break on, he had like a 16% K rate. You don't see guys 6'3", 240 stealing 50 bases. Or what he stole like 60 this year. He stole 50 the year before. 60 bases, he's 6'3", 240. He should be rushing quarterbacks coming off the edge, but he wants to swing the bat. You want to have as many of these super athletes as you can, because sometimes they figure it out. Ellie De La Cruz is another one that, hey, his Ks will never work, yada, yada, yada. He struggled this year. He did, but he's a super athlete. Zach Cole, another guy, his K rate was up to like 40% for a minute this year. He brought it down. And he comes to the show, and then everyone knows who Zach Cole is because he goes nuts the first week or so until the season's over. I think Joshua Baez has insane potential just due to the fact that he's hitting the ball extremely hard. He's 240 pounds of muscle. He's not Josh Naylor 240. This is a super athlete. My only worry is the Cardinals. They do not have a track record of really developing their guys, and they do weird things with their guys. I mean, they brought Jordan Walker up way too early, then sent him back down. I don't know if he's been right yet. So hopefully they got it figured out with Baez and they don't jerk him around. Some guys seem like they toiled in the minors forever with them. We just have to wait and see. I think that Joshua Baez, as the offseason goes along and more people come back to it, because some people take a break right now. We're nuts, so we're getting, but some people take a break and they're going to come back to it and they're going to start looking and like, man, this guy really put up some stuff. And he put up nice numbers. He's got, he's hitting it to all fields with power. He hit 67 line drives this year, and between 2023 and 2024, he hit like 72. So it's a completely different player. This is the guy the Cardinals envisioned when they gave him $1 million overslot, and he bypassed a full ride Vanderbilt to come play for the Cardinals. So that stint on the developmental list changed everything for this guy's trajectory.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Jordan Walker. Right field, I think, it's Baez's spot for the Cardinals. Maybe by June. I just think this guy's going to come to spring training on a mission, and Jordan Walker, like you talked about how they brought him up way too early. They also just played him out of position for his entire big league career. Like, I feel like he should have been a first baseman the whole time, and they just didn't sort the roster correctly to allow that to happen. But there's not going to be anyone standing in Baez's way, I don't think. Like, if you just look at the depth chart, he's just got more talent than these guys. He's going to add value defensively with his arm. And you mentioned he had 54 steals this year. Like, he really likes stealing bases. Like, it's not going to be the type of thing where he gets to the big leagues and he stops running. Like, I think he definitely envisions himself as like a 30-30 type of player in the big leagues eventually. So he's listed at 235. Like, he kind of looks like more like 220. So it really is just a chiseled muscular frame. I'm a big fan. Obviously, as you can tell, we're both pretty big fans here. And I'm just really excited about what he can do to kind of follow up on this season in 2026.
Yeah, I watched an interview with them, and when you listen to the person Joshua Baez, you become a fan. He wants to work hard. They mentioned that he was on the Pipeline's top 30 for the Cardinals and went off. And they said, well, that's okay because I didn't earn the right to be on there in the first place. He's like, I want to earn my right. Now I've earned my right to be on the top 30. And I get the 240 from the interview. They asked him if he was 240. You're 6'3", 240. And he said, yeah. So, and he's a very, very chiseled 240 or 230. He does not look that big, but he's a monster. And when you watch him, you're right. He wants to steal. I mean, the pitchers, they're trying to pick him off. They're stepping off the rubber. They can't stop him. He's going to take it anyway. He takes second and third in multiple games in a row where I watched. He's really an animal. He's an animal out there.
Yeah. So Joshua Baez, if you got him in your dynasty leagues, good job. I think he might be, just at this point in time, or at least before we recorded this podcast, I think he might have been the most underrated top 100 prospect, at least for dynasty. So, Arizona Fall League, we had a little bit of a delay there. And we're just getting bad news after bad news with Sebastian Walcott now potentially being done with a sore arm, and had some guys removed from the rosters. But from sort of a O's and ones perspective, who in the Arizona Fall League is really sort of maybe not catching your eye, but there's someone you're excited to follow throughout the AFL?
There's a couple guys. The guy that it's mainly arms, to be honest with you. Jose Corniel of the Rangers. He was promoted. Me too. Right on. We get to see him because he's coming back from TJ. So he's one of those guys that gets to keep pitching, keep working on his craft. We get to see more of him. Luis de Leon, which is the shirt here, aka Smoke Wagon. He's still 3% owned. I don't know why the prospect community is not all over this guy. He throws 98. I mean, they got at the fall league, you can see it. He's a lefty. He's got amazing stuff. He was on fire the last few months of the season, and he's continued to be on fire here in the fall league. Granted, very small sample size so far, but Luis de Leon, I don't understand how he's 3% owned. I don't think by the time the season starts, I think he's one of those guys where people start to catch up to what's going on, a la Joshua Baez, even though he has a head start. Luis de Leon is a guy I think people are going to start to recognize, like, geez, why haven't we been on Smoke Wagon since the beginning? Well, I don't know, dude. I don't know why he haven't. He's been pitching. And then a third guy I like who hasn't really been able to put it all together and with injuries, and he pitched 4 innings and struck out 4, gave up no runs and 1 hit, was James Hicks for the Astros. Now, he's not a flamethrower, but his stuff dances. He's got insane horizontal movement on his pitches. And the numbers haven't always like jumped up and like screamed in your face, like, look at me. But when you watch him pitch, you're like, geez, look at this guy's stuff. Like, if they get it reined in and get it figured out, this guy could be something. And then he's had injuries. So James Hicks is a guy I'm hoping that can put it all together and have a strong showing in the fall league to kind of put him on some people's maps.
Nice. That's a nice sort of spectrum there with those 3 arms. I think Corniel I've got just outside my top 100. I think I've got De Leon maybe just inside my top 200. It does feel maybe too low on De Leon. Excellent finish to the year. And if you're just kind of looking at strikeouts and ground balls and, a lefty to boot, that's 3 pretty big checks in De Leon's favor. It was a really small sample, but he did get up to AA, and in 3 starts at AA, 1.69 ERA, 24 strikeouts, and a 63% ground ball rate in 16 innings in those 3 starts. So 63% ground ball rate, 35% strikeout rate at AA for De Leon. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, he's been impressive. Like, I run a no hope percentage. I don't know if you've seen me bring that up in percentage, but I call it no hope percentage. It was something I came up with in the O's and ones, and I said this is what it looks like for no hopes in the batter box and stat. And so it just carried over. And so I came up with this no hope percentage I run, and then every 2 weeks, which I started running the O's and 1 leaders, and then I have the no hope percentage leaders. And Luis de Leon has been 1 and 2. He was the first one. I called him Smoke Wagon, and then I just made it the Smoke Wagon Award. And so like Caden Scarborough, Leandro Lopez, they've all won it. Trey Gibson, another Orioles guy. But Luis de Leon has had a no hope percentage north of 70 for like 2 months. Now, anything over 63% is elite. Like the best relievers, you're talking about Class A before he got busted, Duran, all the stud relievers run like a 65 plus. They all have high strikeouts and high ground ball rates. And Luis de Leon, as a starter, has been able to keep up with elite relief pitchers. I think Luis de Leon is really slept on by the community.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'd like that you threw out Leandro Lopez there too. I think he's another good sleeper in the Rangers org. And then you threw out James Hicks. I was going to say, like, that's a great one for leagues that you're playing in with 30 teams, 900 prospects, 1,000 prospects. Like James Hicks of the Astros, a great name for those deep formats. So let's close it out here, JT. Let's talk about the biggest O's and ones prospect risers from the 2025 season. So we're going to be looking at the ownership percentage from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. Who's taking that top spot?
For this season, the biggest gainer had to be Password, Johansson Garcia. You know, he came in at 5 or 6%. I don't remember exactly. He hit the O's and ones at 0, but he had a little bit of helium going into the season, and then he just continued to hit. And now he's up to 31%. He got a cup of coffee. You know, he was a Jeopardy answer. You know, everyone knows who the password is now, especially prospect guys. The second would be Jackson Wiggins of the Cubs, went from 2% to 24%. He was on volume 11 of season 2, so last year. Elmer Rodriguez-Cruz of the Yankees, formerly of the Red Sox. He went from 1% to 16%. He had a heck of a season. And he's a Yankee, so he's going to get all kinds of helium. So if you have a chance or had a chance to get him, it might be gone unless you're in a pretty small league. Trey Gibson, he was on season 3, volume 5 of this year, and he went from 2 to 16%. He was a monster, and then he hit AAA, and he struggled. He's definitely struggled in AAA, but there's a lot of believers out there. I think he's on a few top 100s. So Trey Gibson of the Orioles come in. You got Jacob Raymer of the Mets. He went from 2% to 15%. He was on the second one for this year. He had a really good season. I mean, it was a small sample. I was like, man, this guy keeps this up for a full season. It's on a really special season, and he did. You know, he had a really special season. He's one of the top bat specs for the Mets, in my opinion, and I think that's kind of industry-wide. I think most people have him pretty close in the top 100, maybe even higher. I've seen him as high as like the 50s. And
I
then
think
the last one,
I've got him in like the 70s. But yeah, I mean, he's just a really good hitter. I don't know how high the ceiling is, but like just a really, really good hitter.
Yeah. And then like he stole some bases, but who knows how real that is? You know, it's like with a lot of these guys, we don't know exactly how real it is. So I guess we'll see next year how real the stolen base potential is. Because when you watch him play, he's kind of a stocky guy.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't look like Joshua Baez. He looks more like Jonathan Long running around.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sort of hoping that he's kind of, you know, like a number 5 hitter, like 265 with like 20 to 25 homers. Like, you know, I think he could be that type of player on like an everyday basis.
Dude, that's impressive. That's a good hitter.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's an everyday outfielder for even, you know, that championship team. He could play every day if he's putting up numbers like that. That's a really good projection.
The last one.
But
yeah. Talk about the last.
I was gonna say is Zach Cole. Now Zach Cole of the Astros, someone I'd written off because his K rate just got it was out of control. It was up to like 47% at one point this year. I think he brought it down to sub 40. I think it was like 32, 33. And then the Astros called him up, and he's making web gyms. He's hitting home runs. He had his debut game. He set the Astros single game record for a debut with 4 RBIs, and he had a heck of a showing when he got up. You can't bet against the super athletes. You know, he's got pop and speed and plays great defense. You know, sometimes they just figure it out. They have the extra it that some of the other players just don't have.
Yeah, the Cole, how to value Zach Cole heading into we're in the off season, but heading into 2026, it's very challenging because he kind of showed everything that's in his array of outcomes, showed the power, showed the strikeouts. You know, kind of an unclear how much the team is going to put on his plate to start next year. Like, I also, you know, I know a guy that you were comparing to Zach Cole a little bit, who didn't actually get up to the big leagues this year, who I'm rostering in some leagues is Junior Perez of the Athletics, who had a really monster run at AAA in the PCL, obviously. But, you know, the fact that Cole came up and got to that power right away in the big leagues, is he kind of a tier above Perez to you, or are you still kind of viewing those two sort of similarly?
Man, that's tough. I think, geez, that's really tough. That's tough. I think that I think with the Athletics, maybe the door is a little more open for Junior. I know they got a bunch of young guys that play the outfield. You know, Kobe Thomas. You know, they locked up Lawrence Butler. They got Clark. So There is some young guys, but they're a team that needs those young guys to work out, and they want to see what they got, especially before they get to Vegas. They want to have some young kids they can put up on the stadium walls and be like, come see these guys play. Junior Perez is, I own in every league, by the way, disclaimer, I own him everywhere.
JT might have broken out there, but I also own Junior Perez in not every league, but I've got him in 3 or 4 leagues. And Perez at AAA, used to be a notable prospect in the Padres system way back in 2018, 2019. Ends up in the A's system after the pandemic. Forget exactly what trade he was in, but Junior Perez at AAA this year for the A's /298, 412, 642. Obviously in the PCL, but that was still good for a 144 WRC plus, 27% strikeout rate there, 16.5% walk rate, had the 12 homers and 11 steals in those 42 games. So, it's like the late season AAA, like the pitching's terrible at that point. The conditions are very favorable. Crowded depth chart. He's a righty, so maybe he's a short side platoon guy right away. But Perez, I think Perez is just far too slept on. I'm not sure his exact ownership percent right now, but certainly a spec I'm happy I made at the end of the year.
Yeah. And he plays really good D. That helps. That helps keep you out there. I'm all for the athletes. The slept on super athletes, get as many as you can. Hope one works out.
Absolutely. And I just did want to touch on a couple of those pitchers that we sort of brushed past. Elmer Rodriguez-Cruz, like you mentioned, he's in the Yankees system. I wanted to take him in this draft and hold I'm currently in. I waited a little bit too long. He went somewhere in the 40 to 50 round range. Elmer Rodriguez-Cruz, like the Yankees have, like Carlos Lagrange is obviously just big time stuff, big time limbs all over the place. But Rodriguez-Cruz, I think, is just a starter all the way. Like no questions about whether he's a starter reliever. Maybe more of like a number 3, maybe a number 2, but just a guy that I think is close to big league ready. And so I'm almost surprised he didn't get past that 16% rostered percentage.
Yeah, me too. Especially since he got the AAA. Once they get the AAA, and then people see this stuff plus stuff, TJ starts posting out his player cards. Everyone gets all excited. I have some friends that play fantasy, but they don't. Everything I write, they're like, I don't know who that guy is. I don't know who that guy is. I don't pay any attention until I can see the red bar. Like they don't believe anything's real until it shows up on StatCast. So I'm surprised it didn't get up higher. It might be higher. I'm not sure. Fantrax gets a little wonky toward the end of the season. So leagues die out, new leagues come in, the playoffs start different times. But yeah, I think you're 100% right, is that he is 100% a starter. He's going to get a look in the rotation. There's no question about that. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, and the Yankees, it's kind of a lot of moving pieces in that rotation. So might not be till June, July, something like that. But injuries will strike at some point. I think Rodriguez-Cruz will be ready. And Trey Gibson definitely, before he got to AAA, was checking all those boxes with the strikeouts and the ground balls. Orioles, they're constantly shuffling through injured pitchers. So I assume Trey Gibson will be up in the big league rotation for a good chunk of 2026. And Jackson Wiggins, kind of the pitcher version of like bet on the athletes, bet on the tools. Comes around in terms of the strike throwing this year. I think there were maybe some innings or maybe some slight like arm soreness stuff that slowed him towards the end of the year, but he did pitch again, I think, to close things off. So Wiggins, another guy that's sort of knocking on the door of the big league rotation. Do you think all 3 of those guys are sort of on a similar trajectory in terms of being up sometime next summer?
Yeah, I think we'll see all three of them for sure. I'm not sure who I'd be more excited to see pitch, to be honest with you. I think all three look pretty promising.
I've got Rodriguez-Cruz ranked the highest, just because I think he has probably the highest floor of the three, but I think they all have high ceilings. I mean, they're different pitchers certainly, but yeah, I've got Rodriguez-Cruz the highest.
Yeah, that could be. Jackson Wiggins probably has the best stuff, or at least the best four-seamer.
Yep.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I think he had the biggest issue with walks, didn't he? I think he had the biggest. Well, Trey Gibson in AAA it's kind of rough to tell.
Yeah, I think I think you nailed it. I mean, like best fastball Wiggins, worst control probably Wiggins. But yeah, big time stuff for sure. Well, this has been a blast, JT. Anything you want to mention before we sign off here?
Well, thanks for having me on. If you're in a big league and you're looking for those under the radar guys, come check out the O's and Ones. You can find me on Twitter at Dukes Was My Guy and Substack Dukes Was My Guy. You might find me trolling around in Reddit now and then, but I'm mainly on Twitter and Substack. So come check me out. And hopefully I'm building a website. So I have a couple guys working on that. So hopefully by the end of the year I can, debut my official website.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, yeah, like I said, this has been a blast. I love the content that you're putting out there. Great to talk to a fellow Joshua Baez fanboy, I guess, at this point.
Everyone else will catch up, James. We're just ahead of the curve.
Yeah, we're hopefully ahead of the curve on Joshua Baez here. And I do think people will catch up pretty quickly. And a reminder to everyone listening, top 400 prospect rankings, top 500 dynasty rankings, top 300 redraft rankings are all new. They're all live on the website. Use the code YouTube15 if you want 15% off those. And again, thanks to JT for talking prospects with me on the first prospect podcast of the offseason.